Hello and welcome to my screenshot guide for Final Fantasy XIV. Final Fantasy XIV provides you the basic tools to take a screenshot right in the game via a command called Gpose. But that is not all. As such, this video will be separated into 5 segments, each discussing a different topic. If you're here for only a certain one, use the time tags in the description to move ahead to your desired section. The sections will be location, pose, Gpose settings, and Reshade. Now there is more to talk about, but let us leave that for a potential advanced guide video. There is no lack of great locations to choose from in Final Fantasy XIV. In majority of cases, traveling around will yield no small number of perfect places for a screenshot. But how to find that amazing spot, you ask? Well, let us get a bit of a nomenclature out of the way. Location will, for the purposes of this video, refer to an area such as South Shroud or a region of a location such as Lower Pass or Silent Arbor. Spot refers to a specific point where to take a screenshot. For example, in Kugani, the Thavarian consulate besides the bridge on a rock. In screenshots, you will usually utilize something called bokeh or depth of field. That is when the background is heavily blurred contrary to the foreground and the subject of the photo. This means that most of the background will not be fully visible. In turn, that makes the color and feel of a location far more important than what exactly is there in the background. Keep in mind that the background will not be invisible, it's still there. As such, it is good to look for a nice spot regardless. This heavily depends on how much of the screenshot will be taken by your character and a potential spell effect. Just look at this photo. The background is not visible at all, such as all that matters is the feel. If I took the screenshot a few steps to the left, right, forward or backwards, it would be for the most part the same. Now, while your character is the subject, there can be multiple things in the foreground, such as a tree to stand next to or a rock to sit on. Those will not be affected by the blurring at all and will stay in focus. Look for good things to have in the foreground, such as small items, even trees, bushes, etc. Remember that background and foreground should complement what is happening on screen. If you're after a screenshot of your character relaxing, then the screenshot will be different than a screenshot of you using a spell. The background should be different as well. While Costa del Sol is fine for a beach photo, it's not fit for a photo of a finisher spell or even a limit break. Final advice is simple. Much of this, and not just when it comes to location, is a matter of taste. Do not look at guides expecting to be told where exactly to go and what to do. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder after all. What exactly is your character going to be doing? Well, it's a simple question, but with a difficult answer. The cruel reality is that not all spells or emotes are made equal. Some are nice for a screenshot, some are not. Now, finding the best emote depends on 2 major factors, your race and your gender. Play Dead, the one from the mock station, is a great example. Just look at how different it is. This is the case with many of them. While it may work for my Miqo'te, it may not work for your Rogadin. Due to this, I cannot give you a concrete list of emotes that work well, and those do not. Instead, I'll tell you how to approach finding the best emote or spell. First, you play it. When you enter Gpose, it will be replayed over and over again. Now, by pressing 1 or the corresponding key in the Gpose menu, you can pause the emote. Pause at random intervals, move the camera around, and then decide if it makes for a good shot. Again, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But generally speaking, you want a pose or a spell that doesn't obstruct much of the screenshot, in that it shouldn't fill the screen. Your hairstyle may also play a role, as you want your face visible, or the face of your character. Look at my character, half of his face is covered by hair, as such I must take screenshots from a different angle. When it comes to spells, you want one that doesn't make the entire screen a single color. Even if it may not in Final Fantasy XIV itself, Reshade may not be fully compatible. It likes to overdo color. Big spells such as Death Flare, Foul Flare, or Limit Breaks look amazing, but they're sometimes quite hard to put into a screenshot. Now, you've got to just use your best judgment as to what looks good. The menu of Gpose is easy to learn at first, but a hard beast to tame. Let's go through each one of the buttons and submenus. The top row, face camera. Most of the time you'll want this off. During spells it changes the direction your character is casting at, but during emotes it makes them just move their head and it looks really strange. Remember that disabling this option will set camera location to wherever you move the camera. Disable camera lighting. This button is useless for the most part, as lights have their own separate submenu that we're going to talk about later. Disable all motion. This will freeze movement of your character, any pets or party members that are part of the Gpose. Very important, use it to find a good moment within an emote or a spell. That's what we talked about in the section prior. Disable target motion. Same as the previous option, except it freezes only one character, not all of them. Stop time weather. This is enabled automatically and I have never ever disabled it. It freezes time and weather. This gives you plenty of time to find that amazing screenshot without it suddenly starting to rain or the sound setting. Toggle battle effects on off. Another option that I never used. It should, in theory, disable all spell effects of other players. Those that are not in your party, thus not part of the Gpose. But I had never the chance to test it. If you're taking a screenshot when there's a lot of players, the best is to go into your options and disable spell effects for everyone but yourself. With these buttons out of the way, let us look at the submenus. General settings. This is where you will set your camera position. Effect frame settings. You can make your attire wet, set a status such as burning or sleeping. There is some utility in this menu, but the effects don't always look the best. Lighting settings. It's lights, camera, action, right? Just like in that phrase, lights are the most important. This will allow you to change lights, change their color, turn them on and off, move them around, etc. Motion settings. It's a good submenu. You can change emotes while in Gpose, which is what I use it, but it doesn't work half the time. Also, you can make your character walk, run, spray, and so on, but it's nice, but not really needed for my purposes at least. Most of the movement doesn't look that great, and it's just not an interesting screenshot most of the time. Now with that out of the way, let us go and set up a screenshot step by step. First, find a good pose. We talked about this in the section prior. Second, set up the lighting. By clicking on the 3 light buttons in the lighting settings, you turn them on and off. The lights always turn on where your camera happens to be, so if you turn a light off and then move the camera, it's going to turn on where you move the camera to. Lights also have 3 settings. They dictate the light's fall off or how far the light will reach. Type 1 will make it fall on the closest thing to it. Type 2 is a step further, and Type 3 will make it reach even background in limited distance. Now, I like to set one light above the character in a way that complements the scenery. I like to play around with the colors. They also can change the intensity. Color-wise, red 10, green 9, blue 8 is the same as red 8, green 7, and blue 6. It's just not as strong. By the way, this is the RGB you may have heard so much about. Now, I like to have a hint of color on every screenshot in every light, as it gives it a nice feel. Cold and warm is the basic distinction. Red is warm and blue is cold. A screenshot can be either or, so make sure it fits. The beaches of Costa del Sol should have warmer colors, while Ishgard isn't really going to be orange, is it? Now, usually I use 2 or 3 lights. The first, type 1 or 2, I put above the character to illuminate them, like a sun or moon would, just with a hint of color. The second, I tend to put as type 3 to the left side of my character, quite far away. The third, I keep as a complementary light for spells. So a death flare means a bit of blue light should break through warmer colors, but not really too much. This I will save for a potential advanced guide. With this setup, you achieve one major thing. You create shadows. They are what make or break a good screenshot or even a real photo. Have you ever seen a professional photographer with one of those huge flashes on top of their camera? Those with little paper at the top? That is to diffuse the light and make it spread evenly anywhere but the front. Never ever make light hit a character from the front, unless they're applying for a Chocobo driver's license. And finally, when lights are set up and the pose looks good, comes the final step. Use the movement keys to make character take up about 40% of the screen. This is called the rule of thirds, which again we may talk about in an advanced guide. Then for the magical trick, zoom in, but not with your mouse really. Zoom in as far as it goes, but then in the general settings, zoom in. It zooms in on the character like a real lens would, because when you rotate the lens, the focal length changes and it's different than a simple zoom. Also, try adding a bit of an angle. It can make a screenshot look less static. And here you are. Your screenshot is done. Well, almost done. Surely you have heard of Reshade, but in case you haven't, Reshade is what makes screenshots look so good. Just look, this is the difference between using it or not. Now, what is Reshade though? Like, what does this do? Is it a mod? Can I get banned for it? Well, Reshade is a post-processing injector. It sounds complicated, but all it does, it adds new effects and techniques into the game. Final Fantasy XIV doesn't really have them in settings, but Reshade just puts them in. One of them is anti-aliasing. It's an option you've heard about in games, right? But sometimes certain programs can inject a better form of anti-aliasing. Reshade does exactly that. Now, don't worry, you won't get banned for this. Everybody does it. I have a preset just for gameplay. You can't cheat with it, so it's completely fine to have it. Now, setting up custom Reshade preset is extremely difficult, and as such I will recommend a set that I consider the best. It is created by Espresso on Twitter. In the description is a link to their Twitter, and right next to it is a link to the current newest version. When you open the link, you'll see Google Drive, which you should be familiar with, and there you download Espresso Glow, the version number .zip. When downloaded, unzip it by moving the contents of the zip folder into an ordinary folder on your desktop. The install is simple. Right-click and run the exe file as an administrator. The install explains the rest. After it is installed, our process of making a screenshot has one extra point added. Press Shift and F2. On the top, select one of the presets and the magic is in play. Pressing the plus key enables or disables Reshade in general, so if you want to play without it completely, if you don't want to use it, just press plus and it's going to go away. And that's it. Whew. That was long, wasn't it? But I hoped it helped you. Feel free to share your screenshots with me on Twitter at catboy_Aldari. I really enjoy taking screenshots in Final Fantasy XIV, and this guide is for everyone who also wants to do it, and for my amazing FC Bahamut's Light. Shout out to everyone in there and those people who are going to now go against me in our screenshot competition. We're in EU on Zodiac, so maybe you could join, right? Well, thanks for watching and bye bye.